Hey everyone, so today in this video we're gonna look at how to do the Dragbat attack at Townhall 10. So this is one of my favorite attack strategies at Townhall 10. It's my the go-to attack strategy. Whenever I see a base, the first thing I check for is whether I can Dragbat that base, and if I can Dragbat that base, then I just go for that attack always. Now, so the first thing that we want to look at is the base identification. Okay, so as you can see on this base, you have all the visit towers on the one side, and you have all the air defenses on the other side, at the back end of the base. So you want to use your dragons to take out all the splash damage on the base, and then you can have your bats take out the air defenses at the back side. And this kind of base design, this attack works really well against this kind of a base design, because the dragons are they're just going to completely avoid the air defenses, and the bats are going to completely avoid the visit towers. So you don't even need a freeze on this. Like, I froze the air defense and the single, but I honestly didn't even need that. And just the bats, they dominate the single infernos, and they dominate the air defenses at the back. So you want to, on bases that have single infernos, you want to avoid the dragons running into the single infernos as much as you can, and you want to take that area out with your bat. Sometimes you're gonna have to sometimes when the infernos are separate, you're gonna have to charge into one of the infernos, which is fine, but you don't want to send your dragons into both the single infernos, because they can't really handle all that. And as you can see, this base is now wrecked. I have so many dragons left. I have the bat wave left for cleanup. So let's take a look at another one now. So you want to normally send your heroes to funnel either side of the base, and then you want to send your dragons into the core of the base. So you want your queen to go to that side, which has like an air defense, so that she can grab at least one air defense. And then you can have your king funnel the other side. You can grab the second air defense, maybe with your stone slammer, or maybe you can charge your dragons into that. And then you want your bat spells to take out the last two air defenses. And that's you want to look for bases that have air defenses on the outside rather than in the mid tier of the base or in the core of the base, because against bases that have air defenses in the mid tier, the Lalo works a lot better. And against if you have air defenses in the core, then I would not suggest doing this attack, because the DPS in the core is so high that it can overwhelm the dragons. If you have all four air defenses packed together in the core, then normally you don't want to do this attack, because you want your dragons to go and take out majority of the splash, and you don't want them to be you don't want them running into a lot of air defenses. You want your bats to take out the air defenses at the back end. And you normally you'll have clumped up splash somewhere, like a Viz Tower and an Inferno together or something like that. So that's good value for the freeze. You want to freeze that together and then do the bat bomb. Okay, so let's look at this base over here. Now you have all the four air defenses in the core of the base, and you have both the single set Infernos in the core of the base. But the major weakness in this base is that you have all the four splash damage units, which is the four Viz towers, all on the outside. So normally, like I said, you won't want to attack this kind of a core with a Dragbat. But because of this weakness, we're going to exploit a few things here. What we're going to do is we're going to send the queen onto this visit tower, and she's going to form this end of the funnel over here. Okay, you're going to send the king to funnel out all this. I'm going to use my I'm going to send the dragons in through the center, and I'm going to use a stone slammer to pick off this visit tower, and I'm going to use a few loons to snipe out this visit tower over here. So let's see how this goes. So I'm using a dragon at the 9 o'clock area to help push the queen in a bit. Uh, there's another thing that you have to be careful about on while doing this attack is that you don't want to pull the enemy clan castle, because if there's something like an ice golem or a hound in there, um, it can really upset the attack, because the dragons can't really deal with it slows down the dragons, and if you have like the dragons fighting a hound in the core of the base, it really slows them down, and they can't really cope up with that much of DPS on them. So in this case, unfortunately, I pull out an ice golem out of the CC, and that does slow down the dragons a bit. And uh, since you don't have access to your ice golems at Town Hall 10, so there are certain resources, other resources that you can use, like to take out the back end splash damage. Like you can use loons to snipe off a wizard tower, like I did over here. You can also use like some giants to tank the wizard tower, maybe like 3 giants or something. That 2 giants also works. Otherwise, you can like always use the stone slammer. Normally want to send it like at a side rather than at the back end, because you want the loons coming out of the stone slammer to help support the dragons. So this one, another one got crushed. Now let's look at another base. So as you can see, once again, I'm gonna use my queen to funnel one side of the base and take out an air defense, and then I'm gonna use my king to funnel the other side of the base, and I want to be careful that I don't pull out the enemy clan castle. I use a dragon to funnel my king towards the 12 o'clock side, and I want this queen now to just step up and take out that air defense, and that also gives me a good pathing for my stone slammer to go in towards that archer tower in the expo area, and then take out the second air defense over there. Now let's also talk about the sweepers a bit over here. So okay, actually I sent the stone slammer in from the other side to attack the single inferno, sorry, the multi inferno, and I'm using the dragons. Why I'm doing that, I'll just explain. Let's just pause it right here. You had the clan castle here, which came out this way, and I wanted my dragons to engage with the clan castle, and I used a hound to tank this air defense over here, and and the stone slammer was sent this way because there was no real damage here on the stone slammer, because the multi inferno and the wiz tower, they really can't really damage the stone slammer, so it was gonna get better value over there. The dragons are gonna get better value over here. And look at this setup of the wizard tower and the multi inferno. This is like a good setup where you want to send your bat bomb, because you can freeze this, and if you use the level 7 freeze, you can always bat bomb this kind of a setup. And I want to talk a bit about the sweepers too. So you had one sweeper on this pointing this way, and you had one sweeper on this, like I'm going to use a different color. It was pointing this way. Okay, now if you're attacking this kind of a sweeper, it's better you go in like straight into the sweeper. Why? Because then this all that the sweeper really does, it only pushes the dragons back, and that only kind of slows your attack. Uh, it doesn't really have that much of a negative impact on your attack than a sweeper that was, suppose a sweeper that was, pointing, say, something like this. If you had a sweeper pointing something like this, and if you had buildings over here, stuff over here that hadn't been cleared out, and that would potentially, push the dragons out this way, and they would exit the base, they would go behind all these buildings over here, and that would really fail the attack. And now also I want to talk about a bit about the whole bat bomb versus the bat wave thing. So at Town Hall 10, I always do the bat bomb instead of the bat wave, because uh, in my opinion, like this is what I think, that the bat wave is not that strong at Town Hall 10, because the level 3 bats, they don't the level 3 bat spell, they don't really generate as many bats as the level 4 or the level 5 bat spells do. So at Town Hall 11 and 12, the bat wave is a lot stronger, but at Town Hall 10, you should stick to the bat bomb, because I haven't had like very good experience with the bat wave as much. You want to take the 7 bat spells in your army composition, and you want to take the max free spell. Don't take the max bat spell, because like I said, that kind of a setup which was there in this base with the Viz Tower and the Inferno Tower clumped together, all you need on that is you want the Town Hall 10 raid spell from your army camp. You want your 7 bat spells, and you need the max free spell. Uh, and when you deploy that, the max freeze, the 7 bats, and the rage, it's 100%. It's gonna take out both the Wizard Tower as well as the Inferno Tower. So some people like to do the some people like to put you always drop the rage down first. Then some people like to put the free spell first, and then the bats. This is what I do. And some people like to go with the bat spells first and then the freeze. So both of them work the same. The putting the freeze first is a bit stronger, but it's a bit risky. You have to be like really quick, so you have to like drop the freeze and then immediately drop the 7 bats. It works out every time for me, but it's like if you're new to it and if you haven't practiced it, then go with the bats first, because that's a lot safer. And you want your bats to go separate from where your dragons are, because the bats themselves, they don't ever pull out the red bomb, the red mine, but your dragons can pull out the red mine, which happened right over there. So this is in that respect, this attack is a bit different from your P.E.K.K.A Bowbat, because the P.E.K.K.As can tank the Wizard Tower and the bats come in and take the Wizard Tower out, but you can't really do that in the Dragbat, because you run the risk of a red bomb hitting your bats, and then that's the end of your bats. That can wreck the entire attack. And another thing, like I'd say, take a hound if you're charging into an area that has an air defense, like at entry where you're sending your dragons. If you have an air defense at the entry, then I'd say like normally take a hound, because it just costs like 30 population space, but it can save. You're gonna replace it with a dragon and 2 balloons, right? So it might save more than a dragon and 2 balloons. Like, so take a hound on entry if you're running into a air defense on the entry. Otherwise, you can just take 8 balloons. You take around 10 to 9 dragons normally in your army composition, and that's it. I hope that this helps you to in your attacks, and that's it from me for today. So I'll see you next time.